Welcome back to Optimized Health. I somehow in all of this craziness world that we live in and Optimize You and Optimized Health, ended up being the only host here today with a very special guest. So with me today, we have been doing a series with Nutrition World because you guys have some of the most unique experts I have ever been able to deal with. So with me today is Cady Cooley. Did I say that right?
Kuhlman.
Yeah. I said it incorrectly. My bad. And Cady, you have been with Nutrition World how long?
So really my whole life, because, my parents started it back in 1979. So I remember being 8-year-old, running around the store, ringing up customers. And I do. We were at a different location than now, but I remember it as clear as day. So I would say full time, I've been, really building the business the last 15 years. But
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know, right?
And working alongside with your parents is unique.
Exactly.
Some people be like, I am not doing that.
I know. And what's cool is neither of them, and then now it's just Dad and I, but neither of them pushed me into this. It was a very organic thing. I went off to college at UTK and I got a psychology degree with a minor in business.
Yeah.
And I actually was going to come home and continue with therapy and kind of go that route. But I got back into the business at 20 after I'd graduated and I just fell in love with it. And I honestly love it.
I can see why, because there is so many people with different personalities in different places in life and different health goals and things like that come in and out of Nutrition World.
Exactly.
It can't be boring.
Oh, it's absolutely not. And even though we're just, if you think about it, it's we're in one building and we're one location and that's where I go every day, but it's so different. We're never doing the same thing, and we're empowering people. We're giving them a better life. We're letting them, I just think about it and I'm like, everything you want to do in life, you want to do it with good energy levels. You want to do it with a really, strong body. You want to have a good immune system. And that's something all of us want, no matter what we're doing. So I just feel like we're able to set people up for a better life. And it's just a really rewarding thing.
I've never met anybody who said, you know what? I want to feel like crap all the time.
Exactly. Right.
Never, not one single person.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. So you guys are the place to go to help you not do that.
Exactly.
To live an optimal life. And that's why our partnership means so much is we're both in that same field where we're like, we're just here to make you a better version of you. So
exactly.
We love that with, having that opportunity to share that with you guys.
Thank you. And we love our partnership with you guys because there's things we can't offer that you guys offer. And what a perfect blend to get the person to their best self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is your role necessarily?
Yeah.
Because I know you do all kinds of things.
Right. So I am technically co-owner. And so the role looks like, really visionary for the store, looking at big overarching goals, but then also just the day-to-day things, looking at margins, purchasing, paychecks, employee reviews, all that, just the day-to-day kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But where my heart still lies is going out and helping out on the floor and really still interacting with the customers and being available for deeper questions. And especially what we're about to dive into today, moms and babies and pregnancy and that whole time for a mom is so beautiful for me to assist with.
Yes.
And so really, my role in Nutrition World is so full spectrum in what I'm doing. And then eventually, I'll just keep running the business. And that's the hope for my life.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So you mentioned moms and babies. So your passion, what brought this to be such a passion for you?
Yeah, I think when I went through it with my firstborn, so he is turning 6 this year. So that means, almost 7 years ago, I was pregnant for the first time. And I felt like as I was going through the hospital, setting, and I was going to my appointments, and I had wonderful doctors, and I never want to be, hateful against the system. I just felt like the system didn't show alternatives or did not give women a different side of the viewpoint of pregnancy. There was very, very minimal discussion around nutrients and supplements and what is safe to take during pregnancy. What can I do during pregnancy? What could exercise do for me? What could electrolytes do for me? What could this nutrient do for me? I just felt like it was so basic. And I know for a lot of moms, they either don't feel well during pregnancy or they're just turning to their doctor. And I feel like I need to open that door for them to see all the options that are out there. Because, one of the things that is a little unfortunate is that there isn't a lot of evidence of what is safe during pregnancy and what is not. And I get it. They don't want to study a pregnant mom and do is it safe on the baby kind of test. They they don't want to harm or risk a baby.
Understood.
So there's a very little research on like herbs during pregnancy. There's very little research on that type of stuff. So it leaves a mom to think, oh, it's not safe. But there actually is a lot of stuff that is safe that has been studied. And so those are the things that I really want to empower a mom with. Those natural remedies for when they have stuff come up during pregnancy that are unwanted, the morning sickness, the allergies, the sleeplessness, the constipation, like those type of things, and then help them through even postpartum when those issues come up.
I feel like, okay, so I have been pregnant a very long time ago. Not recently, but a very long time ago. And now my daughter has since had a baby.
Yeah.
And so I watched her go through it. My daughter-in-laws have had babies, and I've watched them go through it. It's a different perspective when you're watching someone you love go through it that way than when you're actually going through it too. So I've kind of got two different views on that. But I remember being so like afraid of everything, like so afraid that I almost was like paralyzed, stand still, much like what you're talking about. Like, okay, I don't want to do anything to hurt this baby. And I'm literally the one in control over that right now, like the only one. And so, you know, I can remember, and you're going to be like, Mandy, this is awful. But like, I was a big avid Dr. Pepper drinker. Like I drank Dr. Pepper like it was my job. Like it was my job. And so I remember just going, oh, wait, that might not be good due to caffeine. Well, I don't know. Now, if I knew then what I know now, that caffeine is the least of my worries.
Right.
But nonetheless, so I would like, okay, I'm going to stop doing that, you know, and then I'd get a headache and I'd be like, oh, God, can I take Tylenol? I don't think I can. I don't know. And at the time when I was pregnant, you didn't have as much access to your doctor.
Right.
Like you had your appointments. You didn't have like call in.
Right.
And had that accessibility like my girls have had this past time. So I was like, okay, I'm just not going to do anything. And I would just suffer. And looking back, I'm like, that can't be good.
Right. Exactly. And that's where I don't want women to be, is like a place of suffering or a place of the unknown to where they're just frozen and then they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because really, we both know like pregnancy can be so beautiful and so you can feel wonderful and you can have a lot of rewarding experiences throughout it. But I do think it takes a lot of the right nutrients, a lot of the right foods, a lot of the right things in order to kind of sustain that for you.
Yeah.
And that's the most common thing I hear with friends is like, well, I guess I'm just not going to drink the caffeine, or I'm not going to take the Tylenol. And I'm not a fan of Tylenol during pregnancy, but then there are alternatives.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of chat about that.
So let's talk about that. So let's start at the very beginning. You just found out you're pregnant and you're feeling that whole tired thing. I do remember that well. And it's your body's creating a human.
Right.
Like it's going, okay, you just put me in warp overdrive.
So technically you're supposed to be a little tired.
Right.
You are, because your body's literally pulling everything in this beautiful miracle to create another life.
Right.
So we can't 100% over trump that full tiredness, but there is some things we can do.
Okay.
So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about 4 nutrients that I don't think your doctor's telling you about that is vital to be on during pregnancy.
Let's do that.
So number 1 is choline. So choline, it actually helps your body produce more acetylcholine, which is a natural neurotransmitter in your brain. What's so fascinating with choline is it actually is a building block for your fetal brain and nervous system.
Okay.
It's essential for memory. It's essential for learning. And it's actually, this is so cool. I wrote this down today. Children born to mothers with a higher choline intake tend to have better attention spans, memory, and problem solving abilities.
Interesting.
So cool. And then the other thing, the role of choline in the placenta. Choline's necessary for proper development and function of the placenta, which provides nutrients and oxygen to growing fetus.
Oh, okay.
So, our placenta, we know, is bringing life and it's bringing nutrients and it's carrying waste away and it's doing amazing. And I'm by no means making a claim with this, but I oftentimes hear of a lot of placenta issues going on these days. And I can't help but wonder if there's a lack of potential choline or a lack of specific nutrients. choline is found in eggs. It's found in some meat, but it's very high found in eggs. I love eggs. I'm a huge fan of that. Right. So like eat the eggs, please, while you're pregnant. But I also supplement with choline, and I do about 300 milligrams a day during pregnancy.
Okay.
And that's what I would recommend for a pregnant mom.
Okay. So eggs and 300 milligrams if you're not getting enough.
Exactly.
If you're not eating it. Or if you don't like eggs, or if you're allergic to eggs.
Right. Or if you just eat them sporadically or something, just try to still get it every day in a 300 milligram dose.
So I've watched, all of my girls' pregnancies were very different, but one in particular was so nauseous, like to the point she missed Christmas.
Wow.
Like she was laid, and everybody's like, oh, she missed Christmas. Like she was laid in the bed. I mean, she was so sick, and I just watched her lose so much weight and just was so nauseous. And I mean, we were trying ginger, we were trying all kinds of things to try to help her through that. And until she got to a certain point in her pregnancy, it was just, it was brutal for her. Yeah.
And that's one of those topics. So it's odd. It's like what's causing the nausea is the HCG that's actually being produced from the placenta. I actually don't fully understand why some women are okay with the HCG and then some are not. And we're all made a little differently. Now, the HCG is a higher histamine molecule. And so histamine is what we think of when we think of allergies. So if there's a mom that maybe has a little bit more sensitivity to allergies via food allergies outside, there's a little substantial research showing maybe that's why they've had more nausea during pregnancy.
That's interesting.
But then there are a lot of, I saw this amazing study recently showing morning sickness and nausea could actually be associated with the male's sperm. So there actually could be.
So it's my son's fault.
I know, right? I know.
Zach.
I know. So I'm like, nobody thinks of that. Like,
right.
And this is where
we think they're done.
This. Right.
Like, they're done.
Exactly. And it's now all up to the female. And it technically is, but it's like maybe there was actually some role there in the sperm that went on that created a worse morning sickness situation.
Interesting.
And then this is newer research that's come out. They're saying 80% of miscarriages are due to the male sperm, not the female. So again,
that's interesting.
Women are always the ones looked at generally for a miscarriage, right?
Sure.
And was something not, viable there? Was there something that didn't, the mom's body didn't respond properly? It's actually maybe we need to take a little deeper look at the male sperm. And I'm huge on making sure if a couple is about to start trying that the men are on supportive nutrients, because we're always talking about female nutrients, right? But we actually need to talk about the male being on enough good nutrients to support the healthy sperm.
Well, and we've talked about in previous podcasts, we've talked about how over each generation, the men are producing less and less sperm. So their testosterone levels are coming down. Then they're 20% less than their dads were at their age, and then 40% less than their grandfathers were. So there is something to that.
There is.
To say, how do we help, help that sperm count, help the testosterone levels, things like that, which will then help their energy levels and things, so that it's just a trickle down effect from there. So that does make a lot of sense.
I know. I think so too. And I think, with Optimize You and all the things you do with getting testosterone optimized, that's so critical moving into a pregnancy for a man.
Oh yeah.
Or getting a woman pregnant. But I also think, there's building blocks. There's zinc that's vital. There's CoQ10 that's vital. Healthy levels of omega-3s are vital. So those three things for a man and a great quality multivitamin would be 100% what I would start on before trying to get pregnant, at least 3 months before. Really takes a good 3 months to really get in and change things within the cells.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would suggest for men. And then going back to female, I love this. And you're probably a big fan because I know you're active in exercise, but creatine during pregnancy.
Yes. During pregnancy.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, I can tell you right now, as a flying right on into menopausal woman, creatine has brought my memory back.
Really?
And I know because I've been doing the same thing for so long. And then my trainer told me, he's like, okay, instead of just doing our workouts, let's add creatine every day. And I'm like, okay. I mean, whatever. I'll do what you say. And I'm like, oh my word.
Really?
Like I
believe that.
Recall, I suffer from losing the word the or something silly like that in my sentences. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of what it is. And that is coming back. Now it's still there.
Right.
But it's coming back.
Wow.
And I'm like, and when I think of something, or I'll have a memory, or I'll be able to pull an 80s band out of the air or something like that. And I'm like, and he was married to, and blah, blah, blah. You know, all the history of the band or whatever. I'll be like, creatine. And my husband's like, okay.
I love that.
But I absolutely believe that.
Yeah, I believe that.
I can see where that would be vital for mother and baby.
Vital. And so listen to what a couple studies have shown. So creatine can actually help maintain energy levels during pregnancy, which is going to be important for the baby and the mom. And we talked about how fatigued you can feel at first, especially when you're really creating all the beginning parts of the baby. And then this is what I find fascinating. Creatine may help protect the baby's brain from damage caused from oxygen deprivation during birth. Now, of course, you pray that there's no oxygen deprivation situation, but it reduces the risk of birth asphyxia. So it's reducing the risk that there is going to be a situation of oxygen deprivation, which it's like, that's amazing.
Yes.
And then enhanced, again, we go back to the placenta. Creatine may improve the function of the placenta, providing more nutrients and oxygen properly to the baby.
That's incredible.
So again, I'm blown away by this, right? And I've honestly rarely heard people talk about creatine during placenta until you dive into like the really well-read and well-studied, people on pregnancy. But this is not mainstream news. So this is not going to be found commonly. So I have been doing creatine, huge fan of it. The thing I will say, if someone has not taken creatine during pregnancy and they were going to start, I would start around 2 to 3 grams.
Okay.
I work up to like 8 or 10 on a lady.
Yes.
But because there's that tiny, tiny risk that it could cause a little loose stool in someone, I don't want the mom to jump in and wonder what happened there.
Yes.
You're not going to gain weight from it. You're not going to have water retention. You're not going to have bloating, none of that, especially with the high quality creatine that they've come out with now. But I just do a little powder. And I worked up to the 8 to 10 grams, but I started with 2 to 3 grams.
Love that.
So that's huge for me. So
that is huge.
Yeah.
Put it in your protein shake.
Exactly. That's literally what I do.
Now there are some that have flavors. I'm not a big fan of mixing all my flavors up.
Me neither.
Like I would just rather go the unflavored.
Same. That's what I do.
Hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I do. I stick with like my yummy protein drink that I know is chocolate, and I'll just add unflavored stuff into it so that I don't know.
Like collagen's unflavored.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. I don't need to add all that in there.
I don't either. And I don't want 19 drinks of different flavors. You know what I mean? Nope. So let's just stick with the one that works. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And then the third nutrient I wanted to talk about was omega-3s. Okay. And so this is somewhat talked about in mainstream, but at a very lower dose than what I would recommend, to be honest. We've got to go a little bit more therapeutically dosed, okay? And I would almost guarantee if you're listening to this, you've probably never had your omega-3 levels checked, so you don't know where you're standing. So you're saying to yourself, maybe I could get by with one pill, or maybe I could get by with a low dose. You don't know that because if the difference is if you're eating a bunch of grass-fed beef and you're eating a bunch of grass-fed butter and, some nuts and seeds provide some, but not a lot of omega-3s, then maybe you're doing okay. Okay. And maybe you're eating some wild-caught salmon. That's not the average person doing all that. So that person probably could get away with a lower dosed omega-3 supplement pill. The average consumer is going to need to do more therapeutically dosed omega-3. And the reason is, so what's within omega-3 is EPA and DHA. Okay, so those are the 2 building blocks of omega-3. The DHA is going to be vital for the fetal brain and the retina, supporting cognitive function, vision, and brain. And it also suggests, there's a lot of studies out there suggesting omega-3 intake may reduce the risk of preterm birth. So that's huge.
That's huge.
Huge.
That is really big.
Yeah. I know. And then the last thing is, and this is what just I fully believe in, there's research indicating omega-3s help reduce the risk of postpartum depression by 50%.
That's significant.
Significant.
And I found in my pregnancy, when I had my first child, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Like,
interesting.
It was more of a worry. It was like, oh my God, am I doing this right? They didn't send me, I got a VCR. At the time, there were VCRs when I had him.
Wow.
But I got a VCR and I got a manual with it, but I didn't get one with this baby. And they just sent him home with me. And oh my gosh,
right.
That whole
worry.
thing. That was my version of postpartum, was like, now what do I do?
Yeah, I get that.
The second one was more. Like I had more. And I think it was a sleep deprivation thing because they were on separate schedules.
I get that.
They were, it's like I never slept because they were somebody was up all the time.
Even if the baby slept in, you were up with the other one getting up. I get that. That happened to me.
Yes. And so it's like, oh my gosh, and then you're like, you're so tired and, then you're crying and then it's like it was like a gateway for it to just creep on in.
I get that. I do. And I would wonder.
That would be great.
It would be great. And I would wonder because with omega-3s, it's an essential fatty acid your body has to have, but your body can't create it. So it's one of the only things that like, you have to get through food or you literally will be lacking in it. And then everything is going to have a little bit of a dysfunction because you're not making enough or you're not eating enough of the essential fatty acid.
Yeah.
And a baby requires a lot of omega-3s. So if you went into pregnancy, maybe with not an optimal amount of omega-3s, the baby takes as much as it can, you're left postpartum and your brain is 60% fat, requiring that EPA and DHA. And if you don't have enough, that is going to put you more at risk for postpartum depression.
Wow.
So, and you
that makes perfect sense.
It does. And maybe with your firstborn, maybe you had enough, who knows? And the secondborn, you could have been teetering on not enough. And so it was just enough to, plus sleep deprivation is very real. But then it puts you in a state of just feeling down.
Yeah.
The worry, the excessive crying, all of that.
And that was fun.
I know. It can be so hard.
It was crazy. But yeah, you knowing these things ahead of time, would you recommend, especially if someone is wanting to put this protocol into play, knowing that they're already pregnant and they're like, okay,
yes,
no matter what stage they're in, but they want to put this into play. Is that,
absolutely. It's never too late. No,
okay.
It's never too late. I mean, there's optimal times to do it.
Sure.
But there's still, it's always going to be beneficial. So if you were at 35 weeks right now, just please add an omega-3 and 100% safe. Like it says on here, there's even a study for preeclampsia may lower the risk of preeclampsia. And that's also pretty common these days.
It is common.
So that the high blood pressure spike that can occur. So, if you were at 37 weeks, just please add omega-3s. And most of the research is showing at least around 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s.
Okay.
That'll be the combination of the EPA, DHA together, creating about 1,000 milligrams of omega-3.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So if you were to start, let's say there's someone trying to get pregnant, would you recommend, it's in their plan? Because we talked about for men, maybe if they were thinking 3 months ahead of time,
right?
Would it be the same timeline for the women as well?
6 months, I would say, for the women. So like if they could start, now 3 months is okay, 6 months is ideal. So 6 months, if they could start an omega-3, start in their creatine, start in their choline. And then outside of that, it's mainly a really good high quality multivitamin. Now, the reason I put these outside of the multivitamin is these are never going to be dosed enough in a multi if they're even going to be found in a multi, because they're probably not even going to be found in the multi. The multi is going to be more like the folate, which is critical, but like the B vitamins, little vitamin D, some iron, some little minerals, things like that. And those are critical, but you will find that in a really good high quality multivitamin. Just, some brands. I love Seeking Health. I love Natural Factors. I love Thorne. They do a great job.
Yeah, I have a lot of Thorne.
Yeah, Thorne's wonderful. So those three brands, they make a great high quality multi. Now I will say, and for everybody listening, all of those brands are going to be between 2 and 3 pills a day of a prenatal, because you cannot get all you need in one pill. Okay. So that's frustrating to some women, but the goal of these companies is they actually kind of want you to take one with each meal is kind of the new standard of a prenatal.
Okay.
So that you're getting your nutrients from your meal, but then anything that was missing, you get from your prenatal in that one pill.
Okay.
And so that's the way like Thorne was made, was 1 time, 3 times a day for their multi. And they're a very science-based company, and they do a really good job of dosing. But you're still going to need to take those other things that I mentioned, the choline, the omega-3, and the creatine outside of that multi.
So we didn't mention, and I may be jumping ahead, and you can just, scold me if I am. But protein.
Yes. We can talk about that now.
Okay. So protein, when I was pregnant, I was like eating anything that anybody put in front of me. I thought in my first pregnancy, it was a free-for-all. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was free-for-all. I thought, what my best option here is? I'm going to get fat anyway. Let's go.
That's hilarious.
I did, I swear. And I'm like, looking back, I'm thinking, where was my brain?
That's funny.
But yeah, I was like anything and everything. Let's go. But there was no rhyme or reason.
Gotcha.
I was just hungry. I mean...
So you really weren't nauseous?
No.
You didn't feel that? Okay, gotcha.
No.
Gotcha.
I was just hungry. And then I produced a very hungry child. So,
how funny.
But to this day, he's very hungry. But it was one of those things where had I known better, I would have strategically place things in line.
Right.
Because I was so hungry. I know now that protein
absolutely
help satiate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I know both our businesses and both of our philosophies are so aligned in this idea of the higher protein amount. So I would suggest at least 0.5 gram of body weight of protein, if not up to 1 gram of protein of body weight during pregnancy. So example, if you weigh 140, either starting with 70 grams. If you're not a very active person, maybe you're not used to a lot of protein and this is all you can do, then do half of your body weight in grams of protein. For me, I try to work upwards. I'm about 140. So I try to work up to about 100 to 140 grams a day. And that is not too much. That's not going to hurt your kidneys. That's not going to put you in a state of weight gain. You're going to gain because you're supposed to be gaining during pregnancy. That's what's supposed to happen. But the amino acids within protein, the blood sugar regulation, the satiation, everything. I mean, the amino acids that are building blocks for your tissues, the muscles, the stuff it carries to the placenta, absolutely vital to get enough protein. Please get enough protein.
Is there a certain type of protein, like a protein powder or anything like that you would think you may not want to do that?
No,
pregnant?
There's not one that I would say you don't want to do. I just think there's better sources in terms of bioavailability.
Perfect.
And we're just huge fans of whey protein at our store. We just are. And, I think for a while there was this idea of plant-based, and the word plant sounds nice. And I think people kind of started thinking oh, that's going to be the healthiest option. But I will say what we've seen in our store and what research has also shown is that plant-based stuff is harder to break down through your GI tract. It just is. So if someone's in a state of gut dysbiosis or they have a sensitive GI tract, they actually react more to the plant-based. And very much. And so when we move them over to a really clean whey isolate, that is 99% bioavailable, easy to break down. It's generally lactose-free, casein-free. So it's free of those allergens that could be bothering the person. And it tastes delicious. I literally can't wait to wake up and drink mine in the morning. I just can't. And I do it with just water. I'm not kidding. And
I do it with water too. Yeah.
And just mix it quick. I'm because I got to be quick and go. And I love it. Mix my creatine in with that. And I've got my little mixture. I think you said you do collagen too.
Yep.
So yeah. And collagen's wonderful during pregnancy. But mix all that together. So I'm a huge fan, especially if you're a pregnant woman and you're feeling nauseous, to begin the day with protein because you're setting the stage for that blood sugar regulation throughout the whole day. So huge fan of whey protein, huge fan of grass-fed beef, eggs, salmon, chicken, turkey, whatever you can get in the protein form. And the cleaner sources, the best. But we do the best we can, of course. But yeah, absolutely the protein.
Is there any other food that you would recommend as just a hard, this has got to be in your diet?
Yeah, definitely cooking with grass-fed butter came to mind because that's going to be high in omega-3s. That's vital for, fats. So fats are the precursor to us making proper hormones. And fats are also a precursor to us making enough neurotransmitters. And our cells are all, covered in a little phospholipid bilayer that's a fatty layer around our cells. The right cell structure and the right fat around those cells lets cells communicate better. It lets cells let toxins out, let nutrients in. So huge fan of grass-fed butter. I am always a fan of getting enough green vegetables in. I don't think we have to do massive quantities that kind of became popular there for a while, like the juicing and all that fat. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think it does make sense. I think they were put on this earth for a reason, and we do need to eat some green vegetables and green nutrients so that we are getting those, antioxidants, all the nutrient pack things that come from vegetables. I know at first, if you're nauseous, that's a harder thing, and that's generally what you don't want during pregnancy, but it's very important if you can to try to get them in some way. So I'll try to get in at least 2 to 3 cups during the day when I'm, pregnant or not pregnant, but of a vegetable, broccoli, spinach, asparagus, those type of things. Yeah.
I'm a big green bean girl.
I like green beans too. Yeah. Green beans they're always good.
It's just easy. It's just easy.
It is.
So I'm like, that's just an easy, and it's not, honestly, it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It's when I put the butter and salt in it that it actually gets its flavor.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah. Okay. So is there any, and again, I may be jumping ahead, and again, you can scold me if you'd like, but, is there anything in all of this that is going to then help after birth with breast milk production?
Yeah, that's a great question. So probably nothing we just talked about is really specific to breast milk production. Because
more baby development.
More baby development and the mental health of the mom and the energy of the mom and those things. But I'd love to hop into breastfeeding because that was one of my big topics I wanted to hit on. So basically with breastfeeding, the tips I would give would be, so making sure you stay hydrated, making sure, I'm a huge fan of electrolytes. So making sure that, you're getting water, but then you're getting water that has the minerals in it, sodium, potassium, sodium chloride, those things, so that the water is actually hydrating you at a deep level. Eating enough calories. That's the big one, because what happens is the moms are exhausted. They're taking care of the baby. They're wanting to either sleep or they're trying to, it's a bit of a hard time, as we know. It's an adjustment. Right? Yes. And the last thing you want to do is go cook something or take energy towards that. But what really happens is the amount of calories needed to produce breast milk is a lot. So you have to eat the calories in order to have the calories to produce the breast milk. And so you have to eat a good quantity, and you should be, because your hormones are trying to reset. You're exhausted, so you do need more calories for energy. So actually, at this point in the time, I haven't talked about carbs. You do need a decent amount of carbohydrates because you need a quicker to break down energy source to produce the breast milk. So I am a fan of organic oats, making some, I would make peanut butter oat balls, like peanut butter, honey, organic oats, and like little chocolate chips, and just roll them up real quick and just eat that throughout the day. That's wonderful. We even sell some things now at our store, like breast milk brownies, breast milk chocolate chip cookies. So they're batches of cookies and brownies ready to make, and you just throw them in the oven with some butter, and they're really good. The other thing is you want to wear the baby as much as possible, skin to skin as much as possible. And then my favorite single herb that I'll talk about is moringa. Okay. So moringa has been used in indigenous tribes and countries for hundreds of years, and it is wonderful for your body to produce more prolactin, which is a hormone necessary to make more breast milk. So when you take moringa, about 24 hours later, you potentially could double in your supply of milk. Oh, wow. That's how fast it works, and it's very effective. I would say that I'm actually not a big fan of what most people think of as fenugreek. Okay. Fenugreek has a higher a bit of upsetting a baby's gastrointestinal tract. So then the baby actually could go on a nursing strike. Oh. And so then the mom's like, what did I do? I increased my breast milk, but then the baby doesn't like it. And then there is also, it changes your pheromones a little bit with the baby. It makes you smell like maple syrup. The fenugreek does. And the baby doesn't respond as well to that.
Well, we've switched then. We've gone from baby being all up on you to your husband being back up on you.
I know, right? If they like maple syrup, I guess.
I guess so. If they're a breakfast boy, it's on.
Pancakes and maple syrup. Yeah. That's funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, but it really does.
That is
very
weird.
Quickly, it makes you very maple syrupy. Like your whole skin and everything is just very maple syrup like. And so when I was breastfeeding my firstborn, my milk supply started dropping about 7-8 months. And I started using fenugreek, and he would not nurse anymore. He totally stopped. And I was like devastated because I was trying to make it, to a year. That was my goal. And we'd been doing really well. And I was like, wait, he won't even get near me. I mean, he pushed off immediate no. Wow. And he never had pushed off. So I was like, what's happening? So I thought the only thing I did was fenugreek. And then come to find out, I would actually talk to other lactation nurses, other midwives and other moms. And they were like, yeah, we don't recommend fenugreek for that reason. So that's the one that's been known a lot for breast milk.
And what was the other one called?
Moringa.
Moringa. Okay. Moringa. Is it a pill? Is it a liquid?
So we have pills, and we have tea, and we have powder. So we have all three ways. I took pills with both my boys. Okay. And once I learned the fenugreek thing, I did the moringa. And then my second born, I produced so much milk, it was crazy. I had to probably slow on the moringa because it was so much. Yeah.
You're so I'm feeding him and the kids next door.
I know, right? Yeah, literally. That's how it was. I know. And then the cool thing with moringa, there's a couple studies on it for your nervous system regulation and helping with anxiety and depression. So I don't know if that's just a really cool way that nature made something to help with that tough time in your life of sleeplessness and needing to produce more milk, but then it also can help with the nervous system.
Well, somewhere between the moringa and the omega-3.
Exactly. So that's my key things for postpartum for sure is the moringa, the omega-3. Then we sell this tincture at our store called Rebalance, and it's made by a brand called Wish Garden. And it has, let me tell you the ingredients in it. So it has lady's mantle, Vitex, black haw bark, motherwort, burdock, and calendula. And those things, that tincture was vital for me postpartum. I mean, I started it the second the boys came out of me. It's a liquid, and it's made by, like I said, the brand Wish Garden. Wish Garden has been family owned, made by midwives out in Colorado since the early 1970s. And this is one of the brands that actually has studied herbs within their birthing center for this long. So going on almost 45 years, they've studied how herbs affect pregnancy. And so that helps your body get back into a little bit more progesterone state of rebalance after postpartum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what you need over there?
What?
And you probably already have it. Kits.
I know, right?
Like little gift baskets, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'd just be in there and be like, okay, they're in stage 1. Where's my stage 1 gift basket?
Yeah, that's a great
idea. Stage 2. They're breastfeeding. Now I need my stage 2. So that's what you guys, because I would just be like.
I could make handouts. Like I could make it so we could say, here's stage 1, and we could help the person find everything needed for stage 1. That's a great idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Because I'm just thinking for myself, because my girls are going to go in round 2.
Right.
Like we've been in round 1, everybody's got 1. Now we're going to go in round 2, and everybody's going to have 2.
Right.
So I'm going to go from 5 to 10. You watch this happen.
You will.
And so then I will be fully gray-headed. You got anything for that?
That's funny.
But it would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
To, be able to help the girls,
Yeah, and you're right, because it is kind of like stages. There's that initial, like, okay, the mom is, literally still a little bit in pain. The mom is crying all the time. The milk is trying to get regulated. I'm leaking everywhere. There's, the whole situation. And then you kind of get into, okay, we've got this. So there's like almost stage 2.
Yes.
But you still need help in the stage 2. You don't really have it, but you're moving in a direction of it. So you're right. It's like that immediate care. And then like, okay, we've got a little bit rolling here. What do we need now? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Now, I did have one of my daughter-in-laws had mastitis, is that right?
Yes.
Am I saying that
wanted
correctly?
to talk about that. Yes.
So badly.
Me too.
Oh, bless her heart. I did not know how to help her.
It can be
It was
awful.
painful. And that baby was hungry.
I know.
And oh my gosh, I felt so sorry for her.
Did she have a fever? And
she did.
Yeah.
Her breast was super hot. She had a fever. Like, yes.
You're weak. It's flu-like. It's terrible. Okay.
Yes.
So that was something I wanted to talk about. So with my firstborn, I never got mastitis. I did get a clogged duct, but I was able to like work that out easily.
What's the difference between the two?
So clogged duct is not infected yet.
Okay.
Mastitis is infected. So clogged duct happens when the milk gets kind of sticky, or it didn't get pulled out from the baby or from a pump, and it sat there for a minute and it just caused a clog. Now, what you do for that is sunflower lecithin. So sunflower lecithin, it helps the milk be less sticky.
Okay.
So I would say to prevent that, if a mom seems to keep getting clogged ducts or they don't want to get them, sunflower lecithin is wonderful for the phosphatidylcholine, which helps your brain. It's good for your mood. But then it goes in and it literally makes the milk just flow better.
Okay.
So I'm a huge fan of that for a clogged duct. Now, if you already had mastitis, clogged duct is not going to do anything.
Okay.
You could do it to prevent it again. But if you're in the active state of mastitis, I will just say, if it came on so fast and it is so bad, you're going to need antibiotics. And, I'm one that like, I have to be like knocking on death's door to turn to an antibiotic. But it can get bad quick, and you could even go septic, and I don't ever want it bad. I mean, it could very quickly, because it's a deep tissue infection, and then it could turn into the blood, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm just always going to say, like, there are times, we're thankful for modern medicine and what it can do. And example with my secondborn, I got mastitis 6 times, okay? Terrible.
Girl.
103 fever. I mean, flu-like, barely.
Like, seriously?
I was like, what is happening here? Come to find out, you're more prone if you have a little bit of candida issues. And I've always had an odd candida kind of body that I'm just a little bit more susceptible. So if I don't eat sugar, but if I did, I feel I'm a little more candida-like. probably from the birth, and I had a C-section and the antibiotics. I was set up a little bit for candida there, just those scenarios. So normally the bacteria that's causing the mastitis is candida. Okay.
For somebody who doesn't know what candida is.
Yeah. So yeast.
Okay.
So it's yeast, and someone's body could be a little bit more prone to candida versus or yeast versus someone that's not, but that's what's causing the infection within the milk is the candida. So what that means is what I got on in order to prevent it was oregano oil. Oregano oil is a wonderful thing to prevent candida and yeast.
Love oregano oil.
Me too. I'm obsessed.
I am too.
Same.
I will totally burp spaghetti sauce for the rest of my life because that's what it tastes like.
I love it. What does it do for you?
It is literally, I've gotten it this year for cold and flu season because I was like, listen, I'm so tired of being congested.
Right.
I'm tired, like all this stuff. And I'm not.
Yep.
Nor have I been since I decided to put that in play.
Yep.
So
I believe that.
But I do burp spaghetti, what feels like spaghetti sauce to me.
I know. I will say, I don't know if you've tried North American Urban Spice, that brand. No. I don't burp theirs. And it's a little soft gel, and I just take one.
Mine's True Life, I think.
Okay. Maybe just try this next time.
Okay.
Because, I do not burp this one. If you mind the burping. If you don't, then, just continue.
Right. If you just want that little surprise of spaghetti.
Yeah, the lasagna in the middle of the day.
Do you? So that works.
So that. Now, I will say again, going back to if you're in a huge active state of infection, it might have to go over to an antibiotic. I only had to do the antibiotic 1 out of the 6 times of infection. I will say what I did after that was I was able to get it quick enough with oregano oil. And then, for moms that are listening, or if you know what this is, do you know what the Hacka letdown catcher is?
My girls have that.
Okay, so like when one side is leaking and the other one's right.
Yeah.
So the letdown catcher, the side that's infected, you put Epsom salt, hot water, and you have to lean over and suction, you're suctioning the nipple and everything, and then you're getting something and massaging. But the mixture between the Epsom salt, the sucking of the Hacka, and then the rubbing allows for the clog to come out. Because essentially, if the clog could come out, your body would be able to fight the infection better. But because it's stagnant, it's staying infected right there.
I see.
So that was the trick. The Hacka, Epsom salt, hot water, and then preventing it with oregano oil and the sunflower lecithin.
Wow.
Yeah. But my heart goes out to the mastitis things because it is so bad. And normally the baby's young and you're exhausted. And that's one reason you get it is you're tired. So your body's not fighting as normal. But you're just feeling terrible and you're trying to show up on all the aspects and you just feel like death. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, so with breastfeeding, since we were in cold and flu season.
Yeah.
So again, much like being pregnant, the moms are very cautious on what they're taking.
Right.
That's going to cross into the breast milk. So do you have any recommendations?
Absolutely.
Oregano. Mine's oregano oil.
Right. So I would say the safest during pregnancy is actually echinacea. That's been studied by a lot of herbalists and midwives over the years has been echinacea. But I would also say that line, going back to Wish Garden, the brand, so they make a little herbal tincture for immune system boosting. We also have, another line, Dr. Green Mom. She makes a Mama's Robitussin, so for cough. Mama Tussin is what it's called. She makes a Mama's Nature's Biotic.
Okay.
And so all of those have been herbs that have been safely studied to boost the immune system. Obviously, the Tussin one's for chest if there's a bad cough going on while pregnant. And then the Wish Garden Immune one is for all aspects of it. So those I just feel very comfortable recommending.
Yeah.
Because it's already the blend of everything.
Perfect. Perfect.
And then stay on your vitamin D. Obviously, I'm big on that, making sure during the wintertime we don't slump in our vitamin D.
Yeah.
Because that will help with the immune system. I do take mushrooms throughout all of pregnancy, and I believe in them. I think they're very safe.
I need to start that.
I love mushrooms. Yeah.
What's your favorite?
I'm a big fan of the Host Defense My Community mushrooms. It has 17 different types of mushrooms in it.
Oh.
So lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, all of them.
Listen, if I find a restaurant and anything on the menu has mushrooms, I'm eating it.
Oh, you love it?
So I might as well.
Right. Yeah.
Supplement.
Yeah, totally. And you're getting the medicinal value where that's more table mushrums, and depending on what type of mushrooms you're eating, don't have a ton of medicinal value. But these, for modulating the immune system is what they're doing. And modulating means not overactive immune system. It means getting the immune system ready to fight when something does come in.
Okay. I mean, I'm down for creating an army.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm down for that. That's why I take all those supplements anyway.
Right. Exactly. And I do feel like viruses and things have gone around a bit more. You've probably experienced that or just seen people at a level of like more often sick. And so I think we do have to create a stronger arsenal. So mushrooms is one of my ways.
Oh, girl, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
And you can do that during pregnancy too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I do.
So we've talked about pregnancy. We've talked about breastfeeding. Let's talk a little bit, if you're okay, with what happens when the baby comes and you go to your first doctor's visit or in the first visit from the doctor in the hospital. So a lot of people don't know, and we talked to Adam about this a little bit in our last episode, about the different creams that they put in their eyes and the vaccines that they get at the hospital, and they just don't know what's coming up.
Sure.
So I was that person. I didn't know. I was just like, okay, you just make sure that he's good, she's good, like whatever.
Right.
So if we want to talk a little bit about that.
So immediately after birth, they're going to want to do a vitamin K shot. Then we're going to do a hepatitis shot. And then we're going to do erythromycin, I believe it is, right into the eyes. The eye ointment is in case the mom had gonorrhea or chlamydia. It could cause blindness in the child. But then hopefully you have a doctor that, and most doctors are good about like testing the mom for that, because that's the more logical way of going about it, is like, let's see if the mom has it before. And then, if the mom has it, the baby does need that. Right.
Sure.
But most moms are not going to have that. And so then we don't need to turn to an immediate antibiotic in the eyes situation. The K shot, very controversial with people. There's so many feelings on each side, so many arguments. I would say, you know, a baby's body does start making its own vitamin K, but it does take a couple of weeks. I believe that's kind of the way God created us and babies and whatnot. But there was a few brain hemorrhages at some point, and they then said, let's create a K shot to prevent that.
Okay.
So for my children, we don't do that, is all I'll say. I don't feel that it's necessary. I take oral vitamin K, so it'll come through my breast milk. And then I give the baby, both of our boys, we just gave drops of vitamin K right into their mouth after they were born.
What's the difference between the shot and the supplementation? So
the shot's probably higher dosed because it's going to go right into the veins, of course. And so we're going to get immediate, where I'm giving probably around, what am I giving of K? Probably, I'm forgetting because it was a couple years, around 800 IUs of the K. Yeah, about 600 to 800 for the first 2 weeks of their life.
Okay.
But they're getting it every day rather than a one-time shot.
One big
POW has to be a lot, where we're spreading it out over the first couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then the only other thing is if the risk of, if you have boys and you're going to get them circumcised, you have a smaller risk then in bleeding, they say, if you don't get the K shot, right?
I see. Okay.
So for girls where nothing's cut on or anything like that, then the only risk is the brain hemorrhaging, which is like a tiny, tiny risk. And they say that the K shot prevents that.
Okay.
But I will say, I mean, I've heard and seen black box warning on there for the dose of aluminum being so high in the K shot, one of the highest in all the shots for some reason.
Interesting.
Maybe to get the body to really react. And so it's needing the body to have an aggravant, and it comes in and it's aggravated, and then it reacts to the K so that it then takes it in. So K, and then the last thing is the hepatitis shot. And they are big on that in hospitals, so they will very much push that. And again, we don't do that for our children. I think the thing with parents, and this is what I always want to say about vaccines and that whole thing, and then I'll give a couple books, is I just urge parents to look at like risk versus reward with everything. So rather than blindly trusting anything, even rather than blindly trusting me, right? Like, please, like, research, do your own homework, look at and think about, like, okay, does my baby have a risk of hepatitis? Like, do me or the father, or they're going to be, sex and needles near the baby, those kind of things. And then look at the risk versus reward, right? And so that's, to me, what you do this whole time with vaccines is you look at, and then you say, okay, at some point the baby's going to get like a rotavirus, norovirus vaccine, which that's a stomach bug vaccine.
Sure.
So you look at like the risk versus reward in that, and you're like, okay, the child throwing up some versus or a shot. And no one dies in our country from throwing up because we have IVs if it got that bad. We have, enough hydration. That's the risk of throwing up, is you just get so dehydrated. So it's like the risk versus reward. I just think you do that with each shot. And then as a parent, you come up with your philosophy of like, what do we believe as a whole needs to happen for our child and for the baby? And then the last thing, and the way I explain it to parents is like, I think when parents say, well, you know, autism's on the rise, or, you know, do these create autism? Do these do this? The reason it can't be so black and white is because this is what happens. It depends on the baby's toxic load when they were born. Okay.
Fair.
So what it is the baby's born. How many toxins did that mother have? How many toxins did the father have? Genetically, maybe even their grandparents. Maybe how many toxins do they use in their house? And there's really no way we can't go score all this.
Sure.
It's just that, did that mom have, you know, mold and glyphosate and tons of candida and maybe a dormant Epstein-Barr virus and all these things sitting in her body that her body hadn't really fought off or dealt with. And then that baby is just a vessel, unfortunately, I mean, they really take everything. I've heard it said by one OBGYN, if you really want to detoxify, have a baby, because the baby is what detoxifies you. So the baby's taking, it's very scary. So that's why going into pregnancy, I even walk ladies through now how to detoxify before getting pregnant if they think they have toxicity issues, heavy metal issues, mold issues, environmental toxin issues. Because then it's, okay, how many toxins did the baby come into being born in life? And then how many more can the baby handle before their toxic bucket is overflowing? So that's why you look at a baby could receive all the vaccines and be totally fine and healthy. They came in probably with a much less toxic bucket.
I see.
Yep.
I see. So it's not really a 1-for-1
exactly.
in terms of autism.
Exactly.
Yeah, understood. Cady, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been very informative.
Wonderful. I love this.
I can't wait to send it to all the girls because they're getting ready to boot up again.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh, I'd be happy to help them if they need help.
I would love to. I would love to. I'd be like, listen, I'm going to leave y'all here for a few minutes.
I love that.
But we'll have our stages so we'll know which ones to
which
get
stage they're in and when they need help. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. But thank you so much. Thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you for always being such a wealth of knowledge for all different facets, but especially this for our girls and for, I always refer back to my people. So
right. And
to my girls and our patients who are coming in, because here lately, I don't know, maybe it's a season.
Right.
Like here lately, we've had some patients being like, well, guess what?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, quite a few.
How funny.
Yeah,
well,
or they're like, hey, we're thinking this might be what we want to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, all right. But yeah, we always love to send them to you and have you take care of them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We love you guys.
We love you guys too. So until next time.
Sounds great.